Hello, and welcome to VFD Vibes, your place for all things related to variable frequency drives. If you're interested in how to make things turn, or manufacturing technology in general, then this is the place for you. I'm your host, Greg Weichman, and this is Episode 3, Software Tools for VFDs, Part 1. Yaskawa has a large portfolio of VFD software, and today we're going to cover the tools related to qualifying and selecting the product. To discuss our topic today, I have guest Michael Hall with me. Michael is the Yaskawa Product Manager of Microdrives and Software Tools. Michael, thanks for being here. How long have you been the Product Manager for Yaskawa's Software Tools?
Hey, Greg. First of all, I just want to thank you for having me do a podcast. I really enjoy the opportunity to reach out and touch more people and tell them about all the things we have to offer. I've been with Yaskawa for about 20 years now, and I've been managing the software products going on about 3 years. So I've really now got a good feeling for what we offer, and I've had many discussions with customers. So I'm excited to talk about these products here today.
Fantastic. Let's dig into the tools. I emphasize the S because it's plural. And other than software to configure the drive, many people might not associate a suite of software programs with a product line like variable frequency drives. Why are software tools important for those that use VFD products?
Well, VFDs are not inexpensive purchases when it comes to automation or building management. And software tools can help you throughout the entire process of choosing the proper VFD to understanding the ROI on the VFD, knowing that it's energy efficient compared to what you had in there before or what it's going to do to your power system that's feeding it. VFDs have hundreds, if not thousands, of settings in them, so they can be quite complex to use. Software is your path to do what you have to do with VFD products and be efficient at it and be able to go on and live your life and do the things you really want to do besides work.
Who wants to do anything other than play with VFDs all day long?
Right.
So what should users expect from a VFD manufacturer regarding these types of software tools?
Well, I've had a chance over the past couple of years to really study our competition and understand what they do with their software products for their VFDs and really compare it to what Yaskawa does. Yaskawa takes a very practical approach to the tools that we offer. We want them to be useful, task-based, and like I said earlier, make your life simple. So you also want these tools to be driven by user needs. You just don't want to operate in a vacuum and not understand what someone is trying to do in the field or with your products and just go off and make a tool and say, here, try this and see how it goes. You want effective tools that save time, simplify ownership, and VFDs will often last, if you get a good quality VFD, 20 years in an application. So you want your tools to support the entire life cycle of that VFD. The last thing that I've gotten exposure to over the past couple of years is updating our tools, whether it's for a customer request that comes in that says, hey, how about this new feature or function that would make my life easier, to updating it to support the new Windows operating system. You should expect tools from VFD suppliers to be updated frequently and to work with the latest operating systems out there.
Great. So really we should be expecting easy to use task-based tools, software that's constantly updated, not only for evolving operating systems, but also evolving product lines. And I'm probably leading into the answer of this next question, but what do you do as the software tools product manager? Why do we need a product manager for this suite of software?
Well, I touched on some of these things that you might naturally think need to be managed with software products. At our company, we have over 20 different software tools that help with pre-sales activities, commissioning, selection, troubleshooting, maintenance. So managing all of that across the various VFD products, making sure the tools are updated and lockstep with the products, making sure that you're taking all that feedback from your customers, which is something that I want to touch on. I like that opportunity when our customers come in to visit us for training to stand up and run through what we have for tools and then in turn ask them what they need in a product or software to simplify their ownership of VFDs. We take that and we put it all into notes, and then we do our best to convert that to features and functions and then deliver those in short order.
Thank you for explaining what needs to be done in that product management role. But personally, in this role, what matters the most to you?
Well, my background is quite varied. I have been in the VFD industry for at least 25 years and served in various roles from field engineer to application engineer to product engineer. Now I'm managing these products. And my previous role, I helped work on the product instructions for Yaskawa. So I'm able to take all of this field experience, these customer interactions, and my technical background and roll it all into what are we doing with our software tools, and does it make sense for that person that has got their hands on our product in the field. So it's important to me that our tools are all driven by our user needs. And you'll see that in our tools and on our website. I try to embody that. And I think if you're satisfying that end user, you're going to be successful at the end of the day, no matter what.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because personally, I'm a technology lover, and I'll use any tool that can make me better and more efficient at what I do. So for me, it's great to see someone with a passion to help our customers, who takes their input and turns it into something powerful that can help them on a day-to-day basis. Now that we know your mantra, let's talk about some specific tools. You mentioned that we have 20 plus software tools at hand, but today's episode is focused on qualifying and selecting the product. So we're going to focus on that portfolio of software. Let's come up with a scenario. Let's say I have a project where I need to spin a large motor. I'm thinking a VFD is the way to go over other starting methods, but it has the highest upfront cost. Is there a tool to help me find out if this drive provides my project an ROI?
Of course. So this falls into the category of pre-sales tools, as you mentioned. One of the tools that we have is called an Energy Savings Predictor. And one of the big roles of VFDs is to save energy. If I remember right, over 80% of the energy throughout the world is consumed by motors. And a lot of that is through motor applications and more through VFDs. So understanding if you're going to go out as a business, say you're in a factory and you want to know that this piece of equipment that you're going to buy is going to save you money, that's usually the primary goal. So having a tool that you can predict your annual energy savings and you can input what you get charged for energy and understand the payback analysis, your carbon footprint, and even get a report that you can send to various people that are in the process of making a buy decision. It's going to be very helpful. And our energy saving predictor gives you all of that, and it's easy to use. You don't have to be a very technical person to use it. You simply input your utility information, system specifics, and you can get a professional looking report that tells you if you were to have just a motor and say a gearbox or a belt ratio there, and you replaced it with a VFD, here's how much energy that you would save over the course of time. And often we see ROIs that can be anywhere from just 6 months to only a couple of years. And understanding that you can get paid back for installing this piece of equipment is a really big influencer in deciding to go with VFDs for just having a motor in the application with no variable frequency control.
Efficiency is so important, both in terms of environmental and financial impact. If I remember my affinity laws correctly, in a V/F application, such as a fan or pump, when we lower our speed by 50%, we actually reduce our energy consumption in the area of 80 to 90%, and that's a pretty darn big reduction. Now, being a Yaskawa tool, I'm assuming all or most of our drives are in the software, and you simply select the one you want to evaluate in your application. Is that correct?
That's correct. The energy saving predictor lets you put in the motor information. We automatically load what the price is of the product of the VFD in there for you, so you don't have to go hunt it down. So those are two variables. Your cost of energy is another one. And then the type of application, like you said, is it on a fan or is it on a pump or is it on a conveyor?
Is it
Whatever
running
it is.
24/7? What's the duty cycle of it?
That's right. And we could put in those percentages of, hey, it runs at 80% speed 50% of the time in a very tabular format. And then you can get a graph of the duty cycle, and then that gets converted to energy savings.
I talked about a reduction in speed. That's a steady state run. I'm assuming it also incorporates things like a reduced inrush current, which reduces your peak demand versus, say, an across the line start.
Right. If you just take a motor in any given application and it's operating directly from the power line, every time you start that motor, it may pull 500 to 600% of its motor nameplate current for a few seconds just to get up to speed. But that adds up, especially if you have more frequent starts and stops. That's wasted energy from the perspective of a VFD that can do a soft start and essentially make the motor behave as if it's running at full speed all the time, when it's really just running at any point on the speed spectrum from 0 all the way up to 100%.
And for those that have never looked at a corporate energy bill, there's often two terms. There's consumption and there's peak demand. Consumption is what you're pulling, that's adding up your kilowatt hours used. Peak demand is the highest amount your factory will draw at any given time. And the power company has to be prepared to give you your peak demand. So the higher your peak demand, the more prepared they have to be for you. They have to keep that overhead, so they charge you for it. So if you were starting 3 or 4 large motors across the line, even though it's only a couple of seconds of very high usage, that will actually drive up your rate for the entire month on the demand side. And then another smart thing to do is, if you're a facility with really large motors, is to have them on delayed or timed startups, or somehow sequence that they can't start up at the same time. And you will save yourself money on that peak demand portion of your utility bill. Moving on to the next piece. I'm working through my project. I know a VFD is going to give me the best possible performance in terms of process control. And we've been able to use this first tool to figure out that the ROI is favorable. Do I have to worry about any impact on my power system?
You bring up one of the few things that I don't consider it a drawback, but it's something that needs to be considered before you purchase a VFD. And that is the effect of the VFD as a nonlinear load on your power system in your facility. Now, there are existing nonlinear loads all around us, computers and light ballasts and all of these things that can put this thing called Harmonics onto the power line. And Harmonics have a couple of drawbacks. One of the drawbacks is equipment heating. And so Harmonics on your power system can cause other equipment to actually run hotter as that equipment tries to filter or manage voltages and current that are not true sinusoidal waveforms. The other thing is your power company also monitors these harmonics and will backcharge you for distortion that your facility puts onto the power line that might expose other adjacent facilities or other companies that are on that same power line to that bad power. And so the reason the power company charges you is because they're giving you clean power, but yet you got one bad actor that has a lot of harmonics in their facility that could be affecting the entire neighborhood negatively. So they want to deter that, and they want to make sure that companies manage the harmonics within their facility. And when you install a VFD, that's an important consideration.
And what tool do we have to help with that?
Well, we have our Harmonics Estimator, and the Harmonics Estimator allows you to estimate harmonics at the point of common coupling. Our tool's very easy to use. You don't have to be an electrical engineer to use it. Basically, we have our Yaskawa drives loaded into the tool, and you put in what your power source is, what kind of transformer, what's the capacity of the transformer feeding it. And if you want, you can put in other loads. But by default, we make it easy, and we will preload that transformer at 80% for you so that when you drop a VFD on there, it assumes that it's not the only piece of equipment running in the facility. And then it basically can generate a report that tells you what are the harmonic levels. The common spec out there in the industry is IEEE 519. And if you meet or don't meet that, and if you don't meet it, then that's where you may need to have a different type of VFD, such as the Yaskawa matrix drive, or you may want to purchase line reactors or filters to help mitigate some of those harmonics from getting back onto the power line. And this tool helps you understand if you pass or fail, and then you can add in these components via the tool to get to a point where, okay, it looks like we meet this standard. Now, the thing I want to caution people on with the use of software is it's an estimation tool. It is not a substitute for an on-site study where you might bring in measurement equipment and measure over the course of 3 or 4 days or a week and then get a full report. So this is an estimation on the front end of purchasing a VFD, so you can have a rough idea of, are harmonics going to be a problem? And if so, you can purchase either the right VFD or the right options at the time of purchase to help mitigate those harmonics. And Yaskawa VFDs, the typical 6-pulse diode bridge VFDs, when it comes to harmonics, are really no different than any other VFD manufacturer out there. Everybody deals with the same harmonics challenges when it comes to VFDs. It's the solutions that you bring to the table with the options and or the unique drives that are designed to manage harmonics that make all the difference.
I think that's one of the coolest pieces about that software is once you have everything entered on your side of that point of common coupling, you can quickly click through the different options and see instantly how they change the harmonic output. You can start with a standard 6-pulse. You can throw on a couple of filters. You can throw on a matrix, low harmonic industrial drive, a U1000. It's really neat to be able to click through and see the effects. So if you have a certain limit you're aiming for, you can look to see what's the most cost-efficient way to get there.
That's correct. And again, it's a simulation tool, but the output is what matters here. The output can be customized. It can be either a single-page summary page or a full multi-page report with charts and graphs. Our tools have a way of making you look like you spent a lot of time working up our harmonics estimation analysis for a facility. And I've even heard comments from customers that this looks so professionally done that it looks like it was a paid-for on-site harmonics analysis. And it's almost necessary today to be able to show and prove that your VFDs aren't going to go into an application and in an attempt to solve a problem, actually make something worse with regards to harmonics. So this tool is very valuable on the front end of our business. A lot of times for the commercial or HVAC industry, it's super critical in buildings when you're trying to manage the power consumptions of hotels or hospitals or whatever that can't really tolerate a dirty power line or have to run efficiently, and they don't want to get charged by the power company for polluting the power line.
Yeah, it really sounds like a tool that can simplify a complex topic. Now on to the next step in my project. I've determined what drive and accessories I want for harmonic performance. Now I'm at the point where I need a part number, and I need it built up with all the options I want. Is there a software tool to help me with that process?
I almost feel like I'm a little salesy here because we've tried to make tools to help you at every step of the way. But since you asked, yes, we do have a product selection tool, and it's one of our more simple tools, believe it or not. But it's very useful to those that are new to the Yaskawa family or someone who may not be highly technical on VFDs and or options. It's called the product selector. And the product selector lets you go in through a wizard-like interface, pick the horsepower of your motor, pick your application, and then input criteria like, hey, what type of enclosure or environment is this VFD going into? Is it going to be exposed to dust and dirt? Is it going to be inside? Does it require, like, say, a NEMA 4 enclosure because it might be outside or on a rooftop? So the product selector is made to take someone who has never looked through a Yaskawa product catalog and put them into a software tool where they can put those things in and then output the model number and a request for quote that you can go to a local Yaskawa distributor and get quoted. VFDs come with a ton of options, at least Yaskawa VFDs. You can choose all sorts of I/O options, enclosure options, input power, output power options, and we have quite an extensive catalog. So navigating all of that by just flipping through pages can be quite daunting. And so our wizard-like interface lets you go through and step by step walks you through, hey, I'm going to pick the I/O points. I'm going to pick the input power. say a line reactor. Oh, and here's the enclosure type that I need. And you just click a radio button and then it builds a catalog number and you can go right to Yaskawa supplier and say, here's the catalog number that I need. And you don't need much expertise to get there using this product selector tool.
Hey, sorry for making you sound salesy, but I'm going to say it. I love product selectors. I've worked with dozens of industrial automation vendors over my career, and everyone seems to think that a part number should be a minimum of 20 characters long, and every single character can be flipped between 8 options based on the specification and way you want to set up and configure their product. It's the world we live in. I joke, but it is because of the customization that's available in ours as well as other people's products that these product selectors are worth their weight in gold. Because I do remember the days when you had to flip open the catalog and say, okay, here's the voltage I need, here's the output current, here's the this, here's the that, and you had to decode every single little part of that part number. Now you click a couple of radio boxes, it's all in nice plain English, and at the end of the day, you've got your part number properly built with no mistakes.
That's right. And I just want to interject here that every manufacturer has their own catalog codes and option codes and model number schemes. So if you're shopping around for a VFD, you could really get lost in the bowl of catalog code spaghetti, if you will. And we don't expect you to take the time to learn the Yaskawa model numbers and the 30 or 40 different option codes that you could get on a product. So we make it easy. We distill it down to layman terminology. And at the end of the day, you have in your hand that cryptic code that every manufacturer needs in order to process your order. And you didn't have to spend the time to really get involved with what does this alphanumeric code mean buried within a 30 number string. So we wanted to make that easier, and that's why we came up with the product selector.
I've already told you my feelings about this, so thank you for making such an easy to use tool. Now that I have the correct part numbers built for my project, let's pretend that it's for a commercial HVAC application, and I actually need dozens of drives of varying sizes and varying options. And the engineers on my project want the specs for each of those drives, along with the mechanical drawings, electrical drawings, certifications, etc. Do I manually have to track down and compile all of those documents, or does Yaskawa have a tool to help with that?
I think you're talking about our VFD schedule builder tool.
It's almost like you knew it was coming.
Yes. And when I say schedule builder, I don't mean date time schedule. What I mean is a tabular type of table that lists out all the VFDs, maybe hundreds of them that could go into a high-rise facility running everything from elevators to ventilation systems to fans and pumps and all those types of things. So the VFD schedule builder was made in the past 2 years as a request from our customers, actually, because we had consulting and specifying engineers come to us and say, hey, look, I'm doing these facility drawings that outline I think it's Schedule 26 or something. Don't quote me on that. But in the construction industry for buildings, they have these different schedules. And the schedule that VFDs often get put into are the mechanical equipment schedule. Now you're like, well, a VFD is electrical. Why would it be in a mechanical schedule? Well, it's in a mechanical schedule because it runs the fans and the pumps, which are considered mechanical equipment. And when you're looking at a drawing of a facility that an engineer has taken time to put together, and it's got maybe 100 VFDs on there, you want to be able to have a schedule at the end of the drawing package, which often goes out for bid, that lists all the VFDs, what their enclosure types are, what their harmonic mitigation things are, for example, if each of them has a line reactor or not, their ratings, where they're installed. And so the engineer will have to cherry pick these specs that are important to make sure the right VFD is installed in the right location in the facility and document those in blueprints and drawings. And as you can imagine, this could make specifying engineers' job very difficult as they try to hunt and peck through the various catalogs and instruction manuals of the VFD products to pull out those little tidbits. The VFD schedule builder was made so that you could take this and build this table of VFDs and copy and paste it into your facility drawings very quickly within minutes. And we've gotten really positive feedback. We know that if we make the lives of our consulting and specifying engineers easy, they'll be more likely to specify our products on the drawing. And when it goes out to bid, everyone else has to compete with Yaskawa. So it's a long-winded way of saying we make the engineer's job easier with the VFD Schedule Builder tool.
Now, who's starting to sound more salesy in this podcast?
That's me.
No worries. We're proud to be Yaskawa. Back to my project. I've got my schedule built, my product selected. We're all the way to the point where we're getting close to the drives being delivered, and I would like my team of engineers and technicians to get a little up to speed before the VFDs arrive. Do we have any software tools that can help with that?
We do. And I think what you're getting at is being able to understand that product before you get to the point where you're standing in front of it, looking at the digital operator or the keypad and scratching your head about the settings, which could be hundreds and hundreds of settings in these products. And that tool would be called a programming simulator. So if you wanted to go to our website and type in programming simulator, what you would find is a handful of simulators that would be able to simulate our product through software and actually present you with the keypad interface, the I/O, and allow you to go in and virtually press the buttons on the keypad to become familiar with it, wire the I/O, even test out some parameter settings in programs. And that programming simulator can output a settings file that you can then import into our programming software and then program the drive directly from your simulation. We've had a lot of positive feedback on our programming simulators. And one useful thing that I wanted to share is that during the pandemic in the past few years, we had a high demand for these simulation tools because people wanted to do training, and it wasn't face-to-face training, it was remote training. And our training team made use of these programming simulators because they couldn't be in a classroom environment with the student, and it worked out very well. In fact, we made a bunch of enhancements to our programming simulator tool as a result of that high usage time with those products. So they're very useful, and they will make you feel like a pro when you're out there if you haven't really used or become familiar with our products face-to-face.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. It is a programming simulator is a way to get comfortable navigating the menus, seeing where the settings are, seeing the available options for each setting. It was new to me when we started planning for this podcast that you can actually output a file that you can load into your drive. Your time is already well spent getting to know the product, but the fact that all the clicking you're doing can actually be used for the final product, which is the setup of the drive when it shows up, to me, that's pretty cool. And for those that don't know, our drives can be programmed via USB. You can actually power up the brains of the drive via USB cable to a mobile phone or computer and program before you have mains power. So you could use this simulator to go through a setup before the drive arrives. And then before it's even installed, you could have that program copied into the drive. Then when power is applied at the actual time of commissioning, it's just time to test it out. It's already programmed and ready to go.
If we got a second here, I just would like to elaborate on that a little bit. This is too big for me to overlook and not mention to the audience here. What you talked about is huge. Years back, if you were a distributor and you had a bunch of VFDs on the shelf and you had a customer that wanted these things pre-programmed, or you wanted to add the value of programming a product for them if they had a bunch of products that required the same programming, so that when they arrived on the job site, 90% of the commissioning is already done, if you will. DriveWizard Mobile is a tool that if you can take a tablet or a mobile device and plug a cable into that and then slice the tape on the packaging at the distributor location, just fold back the cover, plug that cable in from your phone to the drive, and then program it just with the phone in your back pocket, and then tape up the box and send that package to your customer. You no longer have to apply three-phase power to that drive to program it. You can do it right with a USB cable and your mobile device through DriveWizard Mobile. And that's awesome. I like to promote that more and get more people using it because I think it's a real time saver.
And that's a great teaser because, as Michael has alluded to, I plan to have him back for a software part 2 where we're going to dig more into the configuration and operations side of the software suite. My final thought for today, as we close out on this first part of our software portfolio, is if a customer did want to get feedback to you, maybe they have an idea for a new feature or a way to improve our software, what are the best avenues to do that?
Right. We have a couple of feedback links that you could submit feedback. We're working actually on improving that to make that even simpler to use.
So that's in each piece of software?
It is. And as I stated kind of early on, it's invaluable to me as a product manager to take that feedback. Often we will take feedback and within a matter of days have something improved for a customer. And I frequently get emails back that say, hey, I can't believe you made this change that quickly. It's because I know that feedback is important and we live on it. And to keep our products current, it's super critical. The other thing is on our website, there's feedback. I think it's Marcom, MARCOM at Yaskawa.com. You can send an email to there and mention software tools and say, hey, I've got a feedback. That makes it to me typically within 24 hours. And I can take that and enhance the tools and or get back to you if you're having a challenge with our products.
And we do manage our software in-house, right? Which gives us that capability to move quickly, dynamically. And when there's big needs or big improvements, we can hit them right away.
That's right. Our developers have been doing this for quite a while. They're not just into software and into software code. Our developers have industry experience, so they really have an eye towards what the user is really looking for. And that gives us the ability to translate all of these requests that might come in into something very usable and tangible for our customers and turn that around very quickly. That's one of the reasons that I'm excited to do this role, because I'm supported by a great team, not only management here at Yaskawa, but also the people that are doing the work on our software products.
That brings us to a wrap today. So I want to thank you, Michael, for sharing your time and your expertise with us.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more about this topic, make sure to reach out to your Yaskawa Regional Drive Specialist or local Yaskawa distributor. Please like or follow this podcast to stay informed when new episodes launch. And if we're doing a great job, please leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for joining us. And as always, we'll see you next time on VFD Vibes.